So, cameras pointing at things, probably cars or people creating content, cameras pointing at themselves. What is this like to have as a career? Are things different now that it's not possible to put film crews together? For those that are making a profession out of making produced content, what are all the variables? So joining me is my good friend Ryan Davis from Race Service. He's definitely one of the most talented director, cinematographer, photographers that I had the pleasure to ever collaborate with. And we've got also a pretty amazing group of panelists here. By the way, when Larry Chen comes in, check out his setup. His camera setup is amazing. Makes us all look like peasants with his setup. Anyway, hello.
Hello.
Ryan, good to see you.
It's good to see you. I mean, I can actually see you right now down there. I'm upstairs now. Also, I just noted, you mentioned it's really hot. I'm enjoying AC up here. It's quite nice. So I hope you're having a good time down there in the sweltering heat with Sam.
It's okay. Yeah, maybe I'll come up there in a second. All right, so thank you, Ryan. We'll start out our last session.
All right, thank you so much. So I guess just a quick brief as to who I am. I started in this industry years ago with the help of Jacob and James, two of my business partners here at Race Service. Since then, been able to work with really like some of the dopest brands that I ever dreamed about. Currently this year, we've been focusing heavily on Formula One to acronym. And I started all this essentially years ago. Yair Productions. Many guys know me as that, Yair Productions. I was the creative director of Lamatech, a company in Singapore with Jansen Tan. Did a ton of stuff with Formula Drift Asia. No D'Andewell, a bunch of the other guys on here. I've worked closely with several manufacturers and with, held contracts for large series. And primarily now this has all come together for me and for the rest of us here at Race Service, where I am the creative director here, primarily focus on commercial directing, director of photography, designer, strategist, what have you, that kind of stuff, as we all wear a ton of hats here. And that's all, of course, with the help of all my good homies and the rest of the Race Service crew. So I wanted to say thank you real quick, of course, to the other moderators, Jared, Deanna, an old friend, Jen, we work with her a ton, JR Hildebrand, of course, like legend, smartest dude ever, by the way. Rod, thank you so much for hosting. And Sam, of course, you guys can't see him, but he's running the show behind all of this right now. Want to say thanks to the rest of the Race Service crew, Jacob, James, Andy, Nico, Thad, Doyle, Los, Jorge, Max, Eric, Gordon. I think there's more of you. Maybe, I don't know. It's just a lot. But nonetheless, let's move forward. We have the best panel. Do we have the best panel? Am I allowed to say that?
Kind of biased, but I'd say so.
It's a hard no. I'm getting a hard no. I'm not allowed to say that, but I did. And it's here forever. So we got Larry Chen, TJ Hunt, Collette Davis, Krispy. We're all here. Hello, guys.
Hola.
Oh.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you guys. You guys all have rad and very different setups right now. This is cool. This is fun. I was just texting a few of you guys and I was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. But I'm excited. So this is really cool. Just to review, let's see here. Let's review the goals of the conference. As we know, these are challenging times for the automotive world. And our aim of this conference is to help inspire industry professionals, brands, creators, and leaders to find more strategy and opportunity and kind of, you get it. You guys know what's up. But let's dive in. Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
What's up?
Dang, Larry.
Can we note Larry Chen?
Oh, bokeh.
Look at that blur in the
Look it
background.
out.
We dealt with this yesterday on our test call, and we were like, oh, great. Thanks, Larry.
Of course, he's out of focus,
Amazing. Similarities between you guys, I just noticed while, just kind of doing research, getting this all set up. All of you guys have super impressive social followings on Instagram and YouTube. You guys all are very community-based, talking to fans, people, car culture, getting out there, creating content, consistent content, posing questions, challenges, all that kind of stuff. You guys also all do car builds, which is interesting. I noticed that last. And also it seems that none of you guys have been, affected, or rather, none of you guys have seemingly slowed down your content creation during this time. So yeah, we've got a bunch of you guys. I don't know if we should like introduce you all. Everybody knows you guys, but okay, here, Larry Chen, we'll start with you. You're a legend. You're an old friend of mine. Automotive journalist to start, you know, now kind of YouTube star, Canon ambassador.
Not
like,
yet.
you know,
Working on that.
You're official shooter for FD, Pikes Peak International, the Mint 400. You've kind of, when I met you, was author for Speed Hunters, and arguably the most active. Started working with the homies at Hoonigan, doing the autofocus, and you've really built a persona, and, you know, community forward-facing thing. So, hello, Larry.
Hi, thanks for having me. This
so much.
it's been crazy for sure. You know, everyone's asking like, hey, how is this affecting you? For us, we're definitely still trying to keep as busy as possible. One of the big things that we're doing is going through our archive, and you know, we're repurposing old photos. Especially if you see on my feed, you know, I'm trying to post 6 times a day old stuff that we've already shot. And on top of that, we got that large format printer. So that way, I've always wanted to do prints, and I've always wanted to sell something that's tangible, aside just from actual photographs. But we've never actually had the time to even dig through our stuff and print out stuff and ship it out. And like, I'm doing labels, I'm making boxes. It's crazy. I've never had time for that, but now honestly it's the perfect time for that. And we're trying so hard to kind of keep busy. It's really cool to kind of see that people are really, I guess, jumping on board with it. They like kind of having something physical versus just having phone wallpapers or whatever on their computer. So yeah, we're still trying to push. But like everyone else, we're so ready to go back to shooting for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've faced a lot of the same stuff you're talking about too. We, you know, I'll primarily shoot digitally nowadays, and it's hard to actually like have something that you hold, and that's really a gratifying feeling. That might be a good segue to TJ Hunt. So TJ, hello.
Sorry, I was muted. I was making noise, but I'm here.
No, it's fine. This is Zoom. This is Zoom. This is just how this goes. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Everything's good. I'm stoked to be here. It's really cool to share the room with a lot of my friends here. So I'm stoked. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Yeah, of course. I was mentioning to my little brother, like, you know, who you were and kind of stuff. And I was thinking that the first time someone mentioned you to me was, oh, you have to watch him. He's doing it right. You know, so you're, you know, like what Larry and I were just talking about, shooting digitally, but now he's being able to kick out prints and that kind of thing. You have a crazy YouTube following and social media following, and you know, have a ton of stuff with car builds and forward facing, and you know, you're making stuff, you know, you are hands-on driving, doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, just talk about that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, definitely never started like that. It's always, you know, so to this day, I always like kind of feel like I'm questioning myself, like, what am I actually doing? And I kind of like psych myself out, but I always like remind myself that, you know, at the end of the day, if you're just doing what you want to be doing, and you kind of just follow what you have the most passion for, you usually end up in the right spot. And I think that kind of goes for everyone in this panel, because like you said, we kind of are the content creation portion of the panel. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say this: we don't really have boundaries of what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do, which is awesome liberty, but it's also can be one of the most confusing roles and responsibilities that we have, because you end up second guessing literally every single thing that you do, because you're like, well, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, or I don't normally do that. And that's the beauty of it. So yeah, I mean, my journey started on YouTube when I was in college, and then, you know, dropping out and just figuring out YouTube when it became successful, and then started to do a little bit more in the clothing stuff. And then as that grew, just recently entered into the body kit world, which has been kind of my life for the last kind of 6 to 8 months, as it's like really starting to ramp up, and, you know, learning what it means to like SEMA deadlines become so much more real than having cars there previously, like, you know,
sure.
And kind of learning that realm. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I dabble in, and that's the fun of it, is there's no real set guidelines of what I'm supposed to stick to, which is my absolute most favorite thing about what we do.
Wow, that's awesome. We'll definitely come back to that. And you're mentioning, it's so incredible to look back over such a short amount of time on YouTube and see you guys grow and progress and change. I was actually mentioning to Collete last night. I was just, looking over everything, just getting refreshed and just watching over the years of like watching her like really grow into herself and all of that. I guess we'll use that as a segue to Collete. Hello. What's up? How are you?
Good. I'm excited. It's like good to see new faces. This is amazing.
Totally right. I know. It's interesting how even here at Race Service we've been pushing and trying to do all these things, and we've been doing our remote satisfaction, and just over the last few weeks being able to talk with Mad Mike and the Kaiser Death Spray and David Beasley, lead designer of McLaren. It's just like these international like hangouts. It's so cool. So like the community is definitely still flourishing and doing its thing. But
yeah.
Hello. We had a really good talk last night, and we were talking a little about history and just kind of catching up. A lot of people don't really know, but you've been in this since you were 16, started in karting, and kind of like we were talking about too, that you kind of already recognized at that point how important the marketing aspect was in all of this game, right? And you pushed forward, kind of seeing that as a deliverable, as you put it to me. And so now moving into like these different social platforms, and this is just like a deliverable to you. It's just part of the game, and like I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's interesting just because I've been racing for almost a decade now. Started off in go-karts, raced everything from open wheel cars, rallycross, and monster trucks. And from the beginning, not coming from a family that was in racing, not coming from money or someone with a big company to help sponsor me and get through racing, from 16 years old, I knew about sponsorships and marketing because I had to. It was sort of like, okay, I fell in love with racing. I love karting. The only way I'm going to be able to do this is if I figure out business fast. I learn how to fundraise, and I learn how to build a brand around myself. So I've started putting together pitch decks and going into meetings by myself when I was 16, and got my first deal with my university at the time to start racing full time. And definitely just the pitch decks and deliverables and how much they've changed in that like 10-year span is mind blowing. And I think in the beginning it was all about, okay, I want to race in the beginning I did Mazda Road to Indy. I was pursuing IndyCar, so it was about the attendees, the network. Sometimes you get commercial spots. So you're taking everything you can get from a racing program with a race team, and how it normally works is you essentially white label operations from a professional race team. You bring the money and your sponsors and your program, and you press play. So just going from the TV reach or the audience to then now fast forward a decade later, and now it's about what I can do. It's about my own audience, the content I can create. So there's a lot in between there, but I think an overall theme for me is definitely feeling more empowered and like I have more control. And, if I work hard and bust my ass and get stuff done, like I can still go forward in this industry in some way, shape, or form. So I think seeing that transition just in the past 10 years has been really crazy. It's always been a hustle and a grind, but I think now going into more of this content creation space and kind of opening up my life and sharing more of everything that's going on has definitely empowered me more and feel like I have more control. Because I think growing up, that was definitely one of the hardest things. It's just like every year, you're raising $500,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever it is, to race in that series. And at the end of the year, you don't own any assets. You were racing for a team. You don't own anything. And the next year you start from ground zero. And that was so frustrating for me. And doing that since I was 16, and every year starting from scratch, and eventually something clicked and I was like, look, I can't do this anymore. I want to build my own team. I want to have my own assets and control more of my future. So that's when I started making the transition to doing more, I would say, content and video. And that was when I first stopped my project car, which was to build my own drift car. And so I just owned something at the end of the day and have been able to build from there.
Right. Well, it's interesting how all of you guys, by the way, you guys are all naturally just segueing from one another to another. So thanks. It's making my job here super easy. But yeah, it's really interesting to consider yourself a brand and what that all takes and all the work that goes into it that people seriously have no idea. We've worked with you very closely, and Race Service has always been super impressed with how you handle yourself with brands and whatnot. We'll get back to that later. But yeah, props to you because you've been killing it. But that will segue us right over into Chris. Hello, Krispy.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Good, man. How are you? You also have a good camera setup too. Like Larry, you've got load up the field, proper headphones, and I hear you more clearly than anyone. So thank you for that.
Of course.
You're a young automotive cinematographer. So I've been following you for a while, and you have a massive YouTube following, Instagram, social. You're all over there. You're always really kind of at the forefront of these, you know, when there's a changing time or something. I see you kind of modifying quickly. One thing that I noticed about what you were doing that I wanted to bring up to the other partners here, and why we ended up bringing you on, was you're doing these really cool things. What was it? Reviewing your automotive videos. And so I thought that was really interesting, because you were creating, you know, this platform for where your members and your subscribers could go to your YouTube, or rather you would take their videos and put them up, review them with everything, lensing, audio advice, like transitions, like really teaching and learning. Or, you know, just tell us about that, because I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, totally. So right now, my whole job revolves around before all this revolves around going out to car shows, filming car shows, making videos from that and whatnot. So that all, as we all know right now, has come to a almost complete halt, a complete standstill. So it's like, I can't just not do anything right now. I have been going back into backlogs like Larry mentioned, and repurposing old content, putting up just like raw rolling footage, match with some good audio that we got, and other things like that, like videos that people haven't seen that went to client channels right away. But you can only do that for so long. So I've had this idea for a long time that I got inspired by watching some like No Jumper live streams, how they review people's music to review people's videos. So people come to me not so much for like these like behind the scenes vlogs that I put out of stuff. They come to me for like these car show recaps, or these car films or features, or anything that's automotive and looks good, kind of. And so I figure, since people are coming to me to watch my videos, why don't I kind of offer them some feedback? Because people are always commenting on my videos. Hey man, can you watch my video and let me know how I did or whatever? And I'd love to, but I can't respond to every comment and I can't watch every video. So recently I started doing these live streams, where in these live streams I have people submit to an email address, just send me their YouTube link. I'll randomly select some, and we'll go over and chat and give actual constructive criticism in real time. And I'll ask the chat to interact as well. So it's not just like a college peer review where everyone's like, oh, I really like that. That's good. Nice job, Ben. It's just like, I might be rude. I might be mean, but like take it with a grain of salt.
Critique.
That's the thing though. You have to, because that's how you get better. That's what I hated about college, is just that like everyone was so like afraid to offend somebody by telling them or giving them some actual constructive criticism. And that was like my biggest pet peeve that I took, one of my biggest pet peeves that I took away from college. So I figured to bring that into these live streams and to share that with the audience, where a couple hundred people every Wednesday and Saturday join me. We watch videos and we give actual productive feedback.
Cool. We'll jump back in on that later as well.
Totally.
And then I guess, let's see, how could we do this? We can do it a few ways. I have questions for you guys. I have questions for you all. Let me see here. Oh, here's a good one. Let's go back to Larry Chen, my man. Just a real quick thing I was thinking about too. The first photo event I ever shot was with Larry Chen in Limburg at Pikes Peak. And Larry, that was awesome. You guys showed me the ropes. It was like photography boot camp, literally on the side of that mountain. But
that's honestly, I think, the worst event to start, because we're not really throwing you in the deep end. We're throwing you in the high end. You know, the 40% less oxygen, and plus it's just like physically demanding. The 3-hour sleep before a 20-hour day kind of thing, and we do it for a week straight. It was tough. For sure.
It was tough. I have to say though, it ingrained a bit of like work ethic to me. You know, like seeing you, how you viewed the cars, the environment, the landscape. How Limburg was like almost purely looking at light and landscape. He was over here, and then there would like a car would go through. It was just such different takes. And you know, I think I've heard Deanda say it. We've all said it. You're kind of like arguably the hardest working dude in motorsports. You work hard, my friend, like, and you are all over the place, and you've been doing it for a long time. Can you talk about, you know, work ethic and what you feel about that moving through these times?
You know what the funny thing is though? I look at this 6 panels and I have photos of all of you guys. That's kind of the fun thing. I mean, like I have photos of Collete from her first race at the GRC. I have probably thousands of photos of Rod, and probably thousands of photos of you too from over the years. Is that scary to you guys at all?
It depends what folder they're in on your computer.
Yeah, I guess,
that's the scary part.
I don't feel like I work harder than other people. it's so much just about kind of putting your hours, you know, things just don't happen unless you put in those hours. All of you guys know that. And from the outside looking in, especially as us content creators, everyone's looking at our feed and they're like, oh man, you know, these guys and girls get to do all the fun things all the time. It's so much fun and it's so easy and they're not actually working. Wrong. I love to complain about how tired I am and how hurt I am when I'm shooting autofocus. It's really tough, but everyone loves to comment, oh, stop complaining, shut up, you know. You know, I'm like, look, I'm gonna keep complaining because I'm literally in pain doing this. You know, I'm hurt and just going that long without sleep, traveling that much, falling down, breaking my stuff, you know, hurting my body physically, just to continue shooting. It's just something that we have to do for our passion.
Mhm. And so do you feel that, you know, like I mentioned the remote satisfaction, one of the questions I pose to all of those guys, and maybe I'll pose to you guys as well now, is like, do you feel that this is a time to slow down, you know, reflect and all that, or is it a time to power forward maybe and kind of like the feeling of like get ahead while others are sleeping? You know, what do you feel about that?
Well, I do have to say, it is nice that we had a chance to slow down. It is nice that we get to do things that we don't normally get to do. Like, you know, with Chris, you saying you never ever had the chance to review anyone else's videos.
Oh, no.
I would have loved to review people's photos. That's one of the things that I would never be able to do, but I can do that now. It is nice, but also what I'm really happy about is that we pushed really hard this winter. I'm sure all of you guys, every one of us, pushed super hard during this winter before the shutdown because it kind of sets us up to go through this period.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I guess, you know, we have a kind of different way. I used to be, you know, working at series a lot more, but now it's shifted more over into a lot more agency work. So it's interesting feeling the flow and the punches from all of this, you know. For you know, TJ, he has a much different system than you and I have, or that I kind of used to have. It's quite different. It's seemingly solely based off of, you know, the documentation of what he's got going on in his life and this very personal thing. You've been touching on that too, Larry, but we'll come back to that. Let's jump over to TJ. TJ, let's see, I have, Sam, am I able to show full screen real quick? What I'm sharing, can I screen share? Let's try that real quick, shall we? Let's give that a whirl. Let me share this. Bada bing, bada boom. Can you guys see that?
Oh wow.
Boom.
Can I point something out real quick?
Yeah.
That subscribe button, why is it red?
Dang!
Oh,
Dang!
Whoa! I didn't know I was coming under heat today. Man. I don't think I'm logged in under my thing. This is Ray Services thing. I don't know.
So
I don't know. You called me on that one. I'm sorry. These guys are all
It's all love.
cracking
It's
up.
all love.
Wow.
I don't think I'm subscribed to any of you guys. If that makes any of you feel better.
See ya.
I honestly, I have a 9-year-old kid and a very busy here, and I really haven't been into this world a lot. So for me, this has been truly eye-opening to kind of research you guys. Like, I know some of you really well, but I have not gone in and seen the serious amounts of content you guys are putting out, consistent content, quality content. And when I went to TJ's, immediately 1.73 million subscribers, my dude, tons of followers on Instagram as well. Like,
We are not worthy.
This is, you have it figured out,
So
my friend.
crazy.
If you look through here, everybody, you can see he's got like car builds, rebuilds, parts, DIY, progression. This is awesome.
a lot of stuff.
Tell us about this, TJ. This is so cool.
Yeah, there was something earlier you were talking with Larry. You're like, is this a time to slow down? And I think in all of us in a certain way, like the sad reality is that I don't think you ever can slow down. There's never, no matter what the heck's going on in the world, like in the world of internet and all that stuff, the world doesn't stop turning, no matter who you are. And on the outside world, you know, like other jobs and stuff stop, and like you can get, you know, it's okay to walk away and you'll be rehired back, and there's nothing you can really do. But I think in our sense, whether you're doing daily vlogs or you're creating stuff every single day, or you're like Larry or Chris were like, oh, well, there's no events I can't go to. Like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, okay, well, figure it out and start doing something just as much as you were doing the other thing. I don't ever think you can slow down, especially if you want any sliver of chance in making it. I guess if you want to use that like title in this space, it's not going to happen if you are not like literally beating your head over a stick on working that hard. But it kind of levels out, because I feel that the people who only make it this far and are beating their heads over a stick are the ones who are the most passionate about it. So like it balances out. It's like, yeah, it's like,
Absolutely.
but if I wasn't doing this, like I wouldn't be doing anything else. Like this is what I would be doing even if I had nothing else to do, like, or even if I had stuff to do, I would still just be doing this. We're just finding a way, all in our own way, to monetize certain ways on it so that we can make it a living and can continue doing it and living off of it rather than working a typical 9 to 5 in an office. That's my biggest fear. So
I share that fear, my friend.
Yeah.
and I think all of us do
too.
here. Yeah, that's why we're all here. We've all seen each other, like, going through the ups and downs, because it is quite a challenge. And you were just starting to kind of lift into what my first question for you specifically about this was. From a business perspective, can you talk about the grind you're going through? You mentioned monetizing, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all these different things. Like, can you talk about that from just a business perspective? A lot of people don't really understand that world, but you've clearly got it on lock. So
yeah, monetizing business values and stuff on the internet is something that was a lot harder 5 years ago, 10 years ago for that fact. And it's now, I think just in the world of automotive, it's more accepted, and the term influencer and content creator isn't something that, when you went to SEMA 3 years ago, every booth would laugh at. They'd be like, yeah, some kid with like 5,000 followers came up and was like, couldn't I have a sponsored part? And I would always at industry parties hear like, different people like making fun of it, being like this, like, not really supporting that side. And as the culture has kind of showed up, and I think I can really speak on Chris and Collete in this, as like we're a bit younger, that's like our jam. Like social media is like what we grew up with, and like we've always known the value of it. And I think the biggest thing growing up is we were just laughed at, pointed at, like stupid kids on the internet, YouTube, what is that? And now it's like, it's real shit. Like, I think race service is a very, very good point of it, that people who are our successors, a little bit older than us, who were doing what we're doing 10 years ago when we couldn't even drive a car, now you guys have the crazy industry background and are like, oh shit, like there is a lot of play in the culture of the internet. And I think race service has done a really good job. So you guys as well know how you can monetize that into more of a business, and learning what it is to have ad outreach and running certain ads that hit a certain demographic and playing that card. And I really think the next big switch that a lot of people are starting to catch on to, and the more internet creative, like more individuals, is just how race car drivers will find their big sponsors. I think that was something that I personally like stood out to me like 5 years ago. I was like, every race car driver, like as a pro, has like their 5 to 6 core sponsors that allow stuff to happen. And one of the biggest things that I had tried to get on as soon as possible that I started working on like 5 years ago was, I want to find my core team of corporate sponsors who I resonate with, who can give me that, yeah, I can have that sponsorship allowance to do bigger stuff to allow me to go to certain gateways. And now, I'm partnered with some amazing companies, McGuire's, Valvoline, those larger companies that I just really mesh with. And they're like my ride or dies. They go everywhere with me, and they allow me to, that's what I think is the next real step for individual creators, is finding those other businesses that can, you yourself are a business, you are a walking business, and finding other people that can elevate you on certain levels to meet new people. I think every single one, well, I know Larry, I met through just other industry friends that I had met, through certain things. So it's gateways, not only to monetary value, which can elevate certain things, but also create networks, meeting new people who can spark an idea, who can create a new interest. And that's, I think, the real, the next step that you're going to start really to see with individual creators.
I see. It's really interesting to hear you talk about this. Clearly very knowledgeable, and you've been, it's like taking a very focused approach to the YouTube or to the social media growth. And it's really cool seeing you engage with that. you know, we've heard too of some of like the Formula Drift drivers considering like swapping certain rounds where they wouldn't go to Formula Drift and going to grid life, or using that for a mass video or some other kind of content creation to switch it around. Because nowadays, like, you're a testament to that, I think, is you have sponsors and builds and stuff going on, and, you know, not under a professional race series per se. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for any drivers here specifically.
For sure.
That's not what this little spiel is going to be, but I'd be lying if I didn't say and have heard that sometimes, you know, being first is great, but not every sponsor really cares if you're the number one best in your whole entire series. There are some sponsors that I've seen and witnessed that they're more interested in how that driver can resonate with his audience, that at the end of the day is going to get his audience to purchase more products from their business. I mean, that's what I think sometimes as a audience member, you kind of forget why that driver is wearing 10 different brands on his chest. It's not because it looks cool. It's because they're trying to get you to buy their product. And sometimes, you know, coming in first every round doesn't mean per se that they're going to buy more products from them. It's going to be the coolest driver who does the coolest content. And that's where, like, in this world of racing, it's like being the best is great, but being the coolest guy that everyone loves is almost even better and appeals to a lot more companies. And it's slowly starting to turn that some of the bigger dogs in the industry are starting to be like, oh shoot, like maybe they're right. And you're starting to see them bite. And I think that myself, Chris, Collete, are great examples of that. That it's not, I mean, being first is great. Winning is winning. That's racing. But there's a whole other level of what comes to a sponsorship on these days, which is crazy to see that shift. And that's the internet. That's the culture now.
Absolutely. And TJ Hunt dropping some knowledge for everybody out there listening. Thank you for that so much. And again, you guys with the natural segues, I don't even have to try branding. Oof, let's just slide on over to Collete. You know, speaking off of what TJ was saying, you know, branding is a thing, and branding people is a thing, and it can almost be more of a thing than certain race car driver stuff. So you've seen coming from racing and now shifting into a more forward-facing thing, being the face of, you know, Kia commercial. That's the project we worked with you on in Red Bull, Hot Wheels tour, you know, all this type of stuff. It's amazing. It's totally kind of changing the game for you. So can you talk to us about branding and working with brands and representing yourself with brands in a time like this and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I love what TJ said about, like, you are your own business. Like, your brand, your image, everything, you have to treat it as a business and operate that way. And that's literally what I've been doing since I got into racing go-karts, you know, because I knew that I had to take a different approach than most people. And if you look at racing industry as a whole, up until recently, when like car influencers have exponentially grown, back in the day, like racing industry, SEMA, PRI, it was OG grandfathered in people. You know, it was usually the racers themselves. It was their dad that used to do it before them, or, you know, a family business or industry. Like, you were kind of grandfathered into the sport as a whole, which then translated to the whole industry. So I think coming into now, and, you know, with my approach from the beginning is realizing, hey, like, I have to brand myself when no other driver was doing it. Like, I would look around me and every single other person in every like series that I raced in, they were just there because their parents funded them there, or their dad owned that company. And like, that was my life. And I was the only person that was like doing branding or had to, like, you know, just go an extra mile or just do something different. And I mean, you look now, fast forward 10 years, now I'm still in this area and still able to do what I'm trying to do and race. And you see some of those other drivers that didn't adapt and they're struggling to find a ride. And maybe they're not racing anymore. Maybe they're working for a team. Like, it's just so crazy to me because I was so envious, like, having had to work so hard in the industry I had no family in, of them at the time. And then just pursuing this and grinding and hustling and never giving up. Fast forward to now, and I'm like, wow, like, this is amazing. And I'm just glad that I never quit. And, you know, going back to him mentioning your brand as a business, I moved to Silicon Valley 5 years ago, pitching my racing career and my brand as a startup. And I got VC funding as in my brand to continue racing. And that's where I moved out to San Francisco, got some of my first bigger corporate sponsors, and was able to start racing professionally in Red Bull Global Rallycross for the first time. So it's still that whole approach, like 5 years ago, is what allowed me to excel in racing and get to a top level sport and kind of continue from there. Now, obviously, even back then, it was still about the series or the views or the network that it's going to be on. And yeah, I think explaining earlier my frustration of not really owning any assets at the end of every single year and being left with nothing, and it just being exhausting. It's awesome to see now that a lot of what I'm doing is based off of value that I personally can deliver to a sponsor and I have control of. It's not like, oh gosh, okay, if I'm gonna get this sponsorship, I have to make sure that this team is gonna give me a good deal to drive their car, and then the track fee is like this much. It's like, no, I can get a camera, tell a story, do different deals, and it's like provide exposure for my partners, myself. And if it goes back on me and my work ethic and what I'm doing, like that's awesome. And it's empowering. It's definitely not easy. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I think everyone here can relate. It's never a time to slow down, essentially, in your mind. Like, you're always trying to keep hustling and keep moving forward. But I think you have to have that mindset if you are going to keep pursuing something for 10 years, and never give up.
Sure, for sure. And well, in order to stay in something that long, you clearly have to have an amount of passion that all of you guys are sharing. And last night when we were talking too, I just love the passion that you have towards it and sticking to your roots, sticking to you, what you want, what you like, just your shirt right now, the colorway, the pop of color, you hit your YouTube or your, and let me see, Sam, can I full screen again? Is that cool? Okay, sweet. I wanted to just show you guys real quick, just of Collete at Hot Wheels.
No, it's been cool. I've only been building my own cars and getting into that community the past few years. But it's been fun to put my own vision into cars versus always racing other people's cars. So
totally.
gosh,
Oh, here, let me mute that. This is cool. This is these are really awesome. This is just another way where you're in it with brands, working hard. This is at the Legends Tour, the first stop, some of the other guys were mentioning earlier, that got put on hold because
that
of
was
this.
the last normal thing that we did. It was that in Miami, and that's why I ended up staying in Florida, because everything got shut down right after this event. And that was the last normal that we did.
I know, right? It was the last thing. And so it made me think, with you guys, how it's really interesting for me to see you guys progressing and moving and changing and doing all this stuff. One of the things, let me see here, I have a list of questions. Let me jump back to that real quick. Oh, we were talking about being true to yourself. That's right. Can you talk about that, Collete, real quick? We're getting closer to our time frame, but from being a young woman working in this industry too, can you just talk about, staying true to yourself moving forward and kind of what that means to you?
Yeah, I would definitely say, in the beginning of my career, I was obviously the only girl at the track at most places I went, and I got very used to that and had to accept that very early on. So naturally you get a lot more attention. An example too is my first ever GRC race. I was on TV pushed off a ramp in front of everyone because I'm a girl. And, naturally, if you're not,
I was there.
Oh, you got photos of that.
Hey, Larry had photos of that.
You were there.
Of course you did, Larry.
Okay, they build all the ramps, or they built all the ramps differently, which is what happened to me. My very first pro race on TV. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's definitely a double-edged sword being a female, where one, you do get more attention, but that usually comes with more pressure as well. If I, even preparing to, go professionally into drifting, I know that I can't just be okay when I make my debut. I need to be able to go out and kick ass, because everyone's going to be looking at me more closely. And it's always kind of been a back and forth thing. But I definitely feel in the beginning, I would wear all black and try and keep it to myself, wear no makeup, be very conservative. And just over the past few years of owning my own assets, building my own cars, and kind of being able to explore more of my creative side, I've owned more of what I like and my style, and I've just ran with it, because I just don't care anymore. They're my cars. I'm going to do what I love and have fun with it. Because I feel I've been so serious for so long, especially when you find something that you love at 15. I was light switched. I got out of high school. I graduated when I was 16, went to college for engineering at 16, and was this is what I'm doing. And I only did that so I could race. So being so serious for so long, I've had time to self-reflect and be you need to have fun with this. You need to enjoy the ride and not just be so manage going forward,
Right.
you know, and
Right,
like
right.
be serious. So I think in building my own cars and starting to explore content creation, it's definitely opened up another outlook for me. And the response has been amazing. I am so ready
Absolutely.
all the time for people to hate
Yes.
me and like talk on my cars. Like, I don't care, but I'm ready for it. I totally get if all the guys on the internet are gonna hate on my hot pink Barbie drift car. And I'm like, well, bring it. Like,
Let
that's
'em.
fine.
Yep.
I'm gonna do what I want. And people are actually liking it. So I think my biggest thing is just ever since I started like building for myself and doing what I love, like I think I'm just trying to inspire other people to do the same, even if maybe that version for me is wearing all neon, building neon cars and having just like a Barbie garage. And maybe for someone else, it's, you know, you want to be all stealth and have black and white cars. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think if I can just inspire people to do themselves, then that's a good thing. So
I love it. Thank you so much. You guys are killing this, by the way. Oh my God. It's so cool, like seeing all this and hearing, you know, your guys' story of growth and all that. And then I guess, you know, we'll segue right over to Krispy. You know, your growth in this time hasn't slowed down. It's picked up. Your followers have been going up. You know, your engagement seemingly has been going up. You've been doing a bunch of cool stuff. Do you think that the industry for what you're doing with the YouTube stuff and whatnot, is that slowing down or is it picking up, like with people at home? Are they watching this stuff 10 times more? Like, what do you feel about that in the landscape coming up next?
So right now, looking at like the analytics that I know we all maybe don't say we want to, but we look at every single day in the YouTube dashboard app on our phone. We just something that we have to keep opening and closing. I see in there, I don't see any real large dip. I do see kind of almost plateauing at this point because we're kind of at the, hopefully at the latter end or later end of this whole thing that's going on. But from the beginning, I did see definitely an increase in some of my most watched videos, the videos that are my most popular over time. I saw those getting a lot more views consistently, which is cool. And right now, something really cool with the live streams is the viewer retention over time has gone up. And those live streams have greatly helped with that whole realm of analytics because people hang out for 2-3 hours with me and watch, and that adds, once those videos go live to the channel, that adds to the overall watch time of the channel. And that's something YouTube loves to push people that have a lot of watch time. So not only is it great because I get to have one-on-one interactions basically with my audience members and commenting back and forth to them, it feels a lot more personal than responding to a comment and then happening a live time. It also helps the analytics at the end of the day too. And this whole like live stream thing is definitely something in the future that I want to keep moving forward with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that this is a good time or a bad time, or like, what do you think about people who are just starting this now? You know, maybe that would extend to the other guys as well, but how do you feel about that?
So something that I've been like challenging some of my viewers to do in some of these live streams is to like, because personally right now, I don't want to go out and film other people's cars and meet up with other people and hang out with other people just because it's still a little bit, who knows, right? And I live at home still with my family. So I don't want to bring anything home to them. So what I'm challenging them is to almost like shoot their own cars, even if it's like a stock car. Like I have a stock Pacifica minivan to do all my shooting out and whatnot. So go film that, because at the end of the day, all this stance stuff, all this modified culture stuff that we film is awesome. But if this is something you want to do in your career, you know this, like the bigger budgets and the more fun projects with bigger teams come from like OEM manufacturers, come from shooting stock cars, filming, photographing stock cars. So go out and practice filming on what you have right now. You could do that by yourself. Maybe you have a family member do some like rolling shots for you while you film or something like that. But there's still stuff that you can be doing right now without having to interact with people, you know, outside of your current bubble.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you think that for, you know, someone getting into this now, that they are looking at a good arc? You know, this time seems, a lot of people seem really unsure, but it seems like you guys all are sharing this confidence. Do you think that the arc right now is still good?
Well, why not too? Because like, if anything, now's a great time to learn. Like I went to college, I have a plaque over there on the wall with my diploma or whatever, right? And I learned stuff through, well, I kind of learned stuff through there, but most of the stuff that I learned is from watching people in my space on YouTube, right? And watching their videos. Like I've watched Halcyon and Mike Cozile, some of my close friends. I watched them film and watch their videos, and I learned from them. I kind of copied them at the first and then morphed it into my own style. And that's what I tell people to do to me. I'm like, go ahead, copy what I'm doing. Don't like directly copy, but learn from it and then morph that into your own style. So right now, sit at home while you got nothing to do, whatever, and watch these videos and learn and pick up on little cues and things where you can, and just practice that all in your head. So as soon as you're ready to go out into the world and back to somewhat normal, you could put all that, apply that to your first video and get that out there and see how much you learned from before this all happened till after. So use it as a whole like learning time back at home.
Oh, that's amazing. It made me think of right when you were saying that, like back in the day, living in Oregon, snowboarding, super tough all winter. We had winter up there over summer as well, but in summer, you'd just be watching snowboard videos left and right and left and right. And then when you got back into the season, you had all of that fresh in your mind and it was just like ready to go. So you could like carry it with you, you know?
100%.
But But that's really cool to hear you mention that. And, you know, we'll shift over to Larry now. Larry was a person who like would share camera settings with me and would be like, I'd be like, how did you get that shot? And he would be like, this lens, this setting, this place, look at the light. Like it would literally be like, help me with every single thing. So I imagine that this similarly into like Will Rogie, Sean Klingelhofer, Lindbergh, like all these people, I was essentially trying to emulate and, you know, do what they were doing because I didn't know any better. And then it just so quickly just evolved into my style. So Larry, let's jump it over to you real quick. I think we're like super low on time, but we'll power forward. Larry, you're awesome, man. You've been around the world. You've done everything under the sun, been to every event. I think one thing I just like to ask you for anyone watching, similarly to Chris, for someone getting into this now or someone who's really trying to ramp up their profession, for someone who's maybe a little nervous about this, but hungry, like, what do you think about this arc in this landscape?
I definitely think people have a bigger appetite for content more than ever. And that's very evident, you know, across all of our channels, on all of our social. It's just so much more interaction and a lot more views. You know, on Hoonigan Autofocus, I'm seeing a lot more interaction, which is awesome. But for someone starting out, I just keep saying it, shoot what you love, you know, just follow your passion. If your passion is to shoot off-roading, shoot that. You know, if you want to shoot weddings, shoot that. If there's something that you really love, then just shoot it, and then the love will show in your pictures or your video or whatever. And also, just be somebody cool to hang out with, because like the same people.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's actually number one, because we spend so much time with each other. I don't know how many times I've spent, you know, just hanging out all day with you, Ryan, or also Rod. And each one of you guys, you know, we see each other at the track, at events all the time. If there's someone, if you're not vibing, if you're not fun to be around, then it's like, it's so bad. You know, you just want to walk the other way. The thing is, like, the same people that I started with all those years ago are the same people I'm working with day in and day out. And guess what? Potentially somebody who may have just been starting out at a certain company, now look, they're a vice president, or now they're super high up. And we're still working together after 15 years, but they're in a position to actually move a significant amount of money. And that's the thing, is you just have to be somebody that's easy to work with, and you just don't want to burn bridges.
Absolutely. And with that, are you kind of saying like, don't worry about this climate, this situation, like that passion and hard work will slice through that? Is that kind of what you're saying?
The thing is, I talk to a lot of race teams. I'm sure all of you guys talk to a lot of racing drivers and people in the industry. Everyone is so ready to go. They're 1 foot out the door already, you know?
Oh yeah.
They're just ready. Like, everything's loaded. The race car's in there. It's in their trailer. It's ready to just pull out onto the highway. You know, like it could not be more people just ready to go. And that's really what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. Amazing. I love how you put that. And it makes me just think of immediately, you know, Rod has been doing a ton of work on this conference, and like, yeah, he has like the coolest home simulator set up. And I've just been like wanting that, and just thinking how people are just like going to these races and sim races and doing everything. They're just like,
they're like, let's race something. Well, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Bursting at the seams, like you said. Thank you so much, Larry.
It's all about the nerd cycle.
I know, Rod, this guy, he's, give me a break. And then so real quick, Rod, one more question to TJ. TJ, you just like, it's so cool looking over your stuff. Like I mentioned, the first time I heard about you, someone mentioned, you know, you're doing it right. So I just wanted to ask you, any advice for, you know, people who are starting out, any people who might be questioning, you know, is this going to work or not, this landscape? Like, what's your take on all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing now is like, and what's weird is I have a lot of like friends now who are like teachers and like teach in elementary school, and people, when like they ask, oh, like, what do you want to do when you want to grow up? Kids are like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber. And they're like, watch people like Logan Paul, and like YouTube, like when I started was way different, and it was, and quite honestly, it was easy.
Wait, when you started, do you mean when you were doing nightshade taillight sprays?
No, I mean like when I was like shooting paintball guns in my parents' backyard. Like
right.
It was way easier then than it is now. It's a completely oversaturated market. And it's just the truth. It's harder now. I definitely think I was there at the right time. But when people ask me that, I think the biggest thing that people need to take away, and Chris and Larry kind of talked about this a little bit, it's you have to be you. I think when you're watching people, like whether you're watching like Casey Neistat or like you're watching, you know, like Adam LZ's videos or whoever, you tend to want to do the same exact thing as them, and you copy them right away. And that's just because what you're seeing, you like it, you see it, you do it. But what someone told me like really early on when I was trying to, because I really loved Casey Neistat. He's a kind of a lifestyle vlogger. He was like the poster kid of YouTube like a couple years ago. And he said something that really resonated with me. And I've kind of like relayed the message to everyone who's ever asked me this question, man. It's, you can never be a better version of yourself. I will never be a better Casey Neistat. I will never be a better Adam LZ. And in this world of like internet creation, you have to just know that you are your, like, and it sounds so cheesy. It's like your mom telling you as a kid, like, you are your best self. No one's better than you. And so you just really have to focus on what you love to do. And capitalize on that. That's your biggest angle. That's your biggest leverage, is yourself. So in the world of creating content that is self-revolved around you, you just kind of have to like really self-absorb that and figure out a way to be creative. And no one wants to watch the same thing twice. So if you're not creative and you're not yourself, you've already lost. So don't even try. That's the biggest thing. And I think that, you know, that applies to everything in life, but YouTube especially, because it's so easy to create someone's style. And at that point, it's it's not even entertaining to watch.
Again, with the knowledge. Thank you. That was good. And, you know, I think everyone here does that. They follow themselves. They follow what they like. But I even just saw a thing of Larry saying, like, he's over the grind for everyone else. He wants to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And Collete staying true to herself. Chris, same thing, also doing car builds as well. We didn't even have time to get into that, but you know, sticking to your passion, empowering forward, and believing in that, and believing in yourself. That's what you did. I mean, that's why when you watch it, you can feel it. They're really fun. I was watching the Supra one, you know, your highlight on YouTube, and it's so cool just watching through, and like Turk's been doing the Supra, you know, lading and hustling and all this, and it's just been like,
yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's cool to see the industry progress like that. And I was just with Forsberg and Hughes yesterday, and you know, we had like an hour-long talk about the same exact thing, and you know, just asking the secret. So I'm like, the secret is just to be you. Don't try and do anything that's not you, because then it's transparent, and the internet will suss it out before you even realize you're doing it. And at that point, you've lost. You're just gonna get mocked, and it sucks. So absolutely.
I appreciate you guys all so much. You guys have all been
ready. Appreciate you having us.
Rod, yeah, of course. I think we still have a little bit more. Rod, I think we're a little over time. I don't know. Rod, what's going on?
Really, really eye-opening about this panel is that there's a conversation here that we can listen to, but then there's this parallel one that's going on the side here with all the comments, and everyone's having.
Oh, I haven't even been watching.
And it's completely different than any of the other panels.
Yeah.
And some of them we had.
Called it.
Yeah, it's very lively, and it's two parallel things happening at the same time. I have one question is, what about sustainability of output? It takes a lot of effort to be continuing to create content, to be outputting materials day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, you know, thousands of videos. How do you guys maintain inspiration and just that drive to keep outputting?
Well, personally for myself, I don't mean to talk before anybody else, but personally for myself, it's seeing the films that I create, because I'm not like some of the other people in here are really good at vlogging, and that's their niche, and they're amazing at it, like Collete and TJ. They're great at it, and that's what their audience wants to see. And my audience is kind of different in the term that they want to see these films that I create from car shows and whatnot. And my thing is seeing what I created a month ago and taking that and picking apart my own videos and picking apart, how can I film this better? How can I be more creative? And taking that into the next film that I create for the next client, and just over time trying to progress and get better and see something that how can I get better? How can I make something cooler in the end? And obviously you guys, Race Service as creatives, can totally attain or attest to that.
It's times have completely changed for photographers and for videographers. It's not about, oh, hey, I got my Super Street cover. Like I got the one cover, and for car build guys too, you know, oh, I finally got a cover. All right, now I can retire. No. You have to get 5 covers every week. If you don't do that, then you're a nobody. And same thing for videos. You have to have a banger video every week, forever. Otherwise, you'll just disappear.
True.
Looking into the mind of Larry Chen.
Easy.
I definitely have not been doing like YouTube output like TJ here can talk about that. I am still mind blown on the people that have been doing it for so long, especially starting way long ago. I mean, only just now, like during all the stuff that's been going on, I started for the first time trying to do a video every other day because I've never done YouTube consistently, and I'm just now trying. And I missed a day. I already went like 2 days, and I don't know how you guys do it. And I was doing so good. And for me, for finding stuff to film and like continuing the output, I'm just working on stuff that I love and I'm passionate about, and like I'm trying to get these cars across the finish line. At the same time, I want to now like prioritize capturing all the content. So it definitely takes, I feel like I should have built 3 race cars for every one that I have now, because the filming, and it takes longer and you got to coordinate other things and try and tell a story. And it's a much longer process. But I think at the end of the day, looking back and having that content and having that footage is really, really cool. I think you see the transformation of a project that you're super passionate about. And right now, what I'm most excited about is that I'm finally getting close to driving more. Oh my gosh. Like, I love all this. It's been a great journey, and I'm very happy to have, raced for other people. And then now I'm going into building more of my own cars and learning all of that. But I'm a driver, like first and foremost, like that is why I'm passionate about everything. That's why I've been busting my ass for a decade, is just to get back in the driver's seat. And now that my cars are, being built the way that they should be, and I'm just now starting to get more seat time, I am so happy. Like, I'm so excited for all the stuff that we can film, and, just to kind of start that next journey, because I haven't really put that to the public or brought people along for that side of things with me. So
you can see that excitement in you, like popping, and like being able to drive and like
when everything happened. And when California got locked down, I was in Florida, and I just got a 350Z, and it came out of just frustration of having been building my cars for a while. Like, I just need seat time. Like, this is good, and I'm gonna keep hustling forever, but at the same time, I need to mix driving in there. I got a 350Z. Within 24 hours, I was shredding it at the track. And like, that is the best thing I've ever done. And like, now I am so happy. And like, that's my little like reward to myself. And I think now that I can start driving a lot more, I'm so excited.
Fantastic. So we're going to have one question. We're going to bring someone in here. We're actually going to bring in James Kirkham, good friend of ours.
Hey, James.
Oh, James.
James.
Where you at, James? JK, what up, dude?
Here, what up? Sorry, I crashed my Zoom, which brings me right to my question. A lot of this is keeping up with the way people want to consume content and the changing platforms in the landscape. What do you guys predict is the next platform, and are you putting your energy towards different platforms than you usually do?
That's a really hard
I'll
question
call on
to
someone.
answer.
How about TJ? You take this off. What do you think, buddy?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, I saw Chris talking shit about it earlier, so I'm going to bring it up.
Oh no! Oh no!
If you're not on TikTok, you've already lost, Chris. Part of our job, I hate saying it, and my girlfriend always gives me shit for it, and I'm always on my phone. I'm like, hey, it's my job to be on Instagram. It's my job to be on Snapchat. It's my job to be on Twitter. It's my job to be on TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff. I think it's really important to stay, I don't want to say relevant. I don't like that term. I think it's always important to stay active on platforms. I mean, I resisted TikTok so bad. I hated it. I really did. And then I finally caved and kind of like learned that culture, because every app has its own culture, just like live streaming has its own culture versus YouTube. But I don't really think it's important as to like try to do your research. Like Gary Vee will be like, oh, this is the next big Instagram per se, but more so when something's on the rise, it's your job as a creator to be there. And you don't have to, but it's kind of, we talked about what Larry said earlier, is you got to work nonstop, work around the clock. And, I think same applies for TikTok and all those apps that are a little bit cringy, but, it's important. I think that it's very important for brand exposure, and, just for yourself, you want to try and be in the face as much as you can.
They delete all of your drifting videos. They deleted all my driving videos for violation of policies, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't
Like
want
that
on there.
Chinese government, baby, ain't like
It's
you do
crazy.
shit.
It's crazy.
Oh, you guys, I'll thank you guys all so much. We brought the
Thank you.
heat at the end of the day. It's hot down there. I can see them sweating. I'm again in AC and loving it. It looks like all you guys are comfortable at where you're at. Thank you for the question, James. Rob, thank you for the question. Larry, Colette, TJ, Chris, you guys
Thank you.
rip. I appreciate it so much. Race
Thank
Service
you.
appreciates it. And of course, we'll be doing a YouTube cut down and all that jazz to, you know, have this later and all that. And maybe you
Like,
guys
comment,
can help
subscribe.
us. Yeah, I'll do that in just a minute. So yeah, thank you guys so much. And we'll kick it
Thank
back
you.
over to Rod, I think. And adios. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys.
See you guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Right. So that was it. 4 sessions, 4 hours. Hope you all found it informative and maybe it gave you some ideas as to where you can take things for your area, whatever part of car culture you're involved with. I've certainly got a lot to think about. And thanks everyone that participated, all our panelists, all our moderators, and we will be seeing you on the interwebs. Thanks again.